Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Visor, episode number 3 of Series 2 this evening. Hopefully, we get this episode out before Christmas so you can watch it before you have your Christmas dinner. But joining me this evening, I'm very much looking forward to this guest. It's a duo for the very first time. It is the combination of Neil and Bailey, also known as VRT Verstappen. How are you both doing this evening?
Hello, I'm doing good, Billy. Yeah,
I'm doing pretty good.
yeah.
Good.
Thank you for having us on.
It's a pleasure to have you on. This has been about 3 months in the pipeline. It was the second time trying to record this because we had audio issues last time. But finally, we are here recording this episode. If you are new to the series, don't forget to, after this episode, of course, go down into the description and you can see season 1 and season 2 down. I've got 2 playlists there so you can watch away to your heart's content over the Christmas period. But tonight, of course, is episode number 3 with Neil and Bailey. So I'll kick it off with you both. I mean, let's start with Bailey, of course. So, Bailey, when did you actually start racing on the F1 games?
Must have been when, like, 2012, when 2012 came out.
Mm-hmm.
I think my uncle gave F1 2011 and F1 2012 to me for the Xbox 360. I started playing since then. Got like every F1 game up until now, really. That's
Mm-hmm.
where it all started.
And did your were you into F1 before that? Before starting playing the games, did your dad, sit you down in front of the television and make you watch it, or did you just naturally prefer that you watched the game, you played the game before you actually started watching F1?
I watched F1 before getting the games. I My dad watched F1 occasionally. He was more into touring cars at the time, but when
Mhm.
I really liked F1, I also my dad started to get more interested in it too.
I had
Okay.
no choice. I had to get a bit stupid clock to watch one 5-year-old.
Oh dear. So, I mean, Bailey mentioned you've always been into racing, Neil. Is it mainly been touring cars, or is it now all F1?
That's a bit of everything, to be quite honest. True. I was mainly rallying. I was into it to start off with,
Mhm.
like Carlos Sainz, the father, not the son, obviously.
Mhm.
And then got into touring cars, and then when Bailey started getting into F1, I basically just took that on. But anything with wheels and an engine, I basically watch on the telly.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think a lot of motorsport fans, if it's got, like you said, if it's got 4 wheels and an engine, they'll watch it. Oh, it's good. It's good you're not limited to F1 either. Rallying, I think sometimes is undervalued in the world of motorsport. But I mean, Bailey's been racing since a young age, Neil. I mean, when did you actually see the talent? I mean, we've seen so much of him. I mean, I especially have as a commentator. I mean, when did you sort of notice? Oh, he's actually quite good at this game.
He started at a very young age. I think he was about 3-year-old, and I had a PlayStation 2 with Gran Turismo on.
Mhm.
And I just set him away on the old track where I think it was a Civic Type R. And after a couple of days, he was able to actually put a lap in. Well, could be onto something here. And I just let him get on with it from then. And then,
Mhm.
like you say, he got into F1. We got the F1 games, the Xbox One, and he's never really looked back. And he was getting pretty good on the pad. So I thought, well, we'll give him a chance on a wheel. And we got him a wheel for Christmas. And he won the championship that year. So F4, 10-year-old. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's mad to think you know Bailey, you won a championship at 10 years old when the majority of people you race against are at least 4 or 5 years older than you. Even some of the top guys are even older than that. I mean, when you race, do you ever think about the other guys' ages, or do you sort of focus and just concentrate on what you have to do on track?
When you race, you don't care about what everyone else is thinking. You care about yourself. You care about what corner you're taking, what strategy you're doing, and stuff like that. So you don't really think about stuff like that when you're doing league races.
Hmm. And do you because you've got this name now because you're still so young. I mean, you're 12 years old now, and you've got this sort of tag as sort of the next up and coming thing. Do you find there's a lot of pressure on you as well? For I mean, Neil, you see it through Twitter as you run the account for the both of you. I mean, do you feel there's a lot of pressure on you going forward? I mean, we'll talk about esports as it goes on. This conversation goes on as well. But do you feel there's a lot of pressure on you going forward on the F1 games because of the how good you are at such a young age?
Uh, yeah. I there's some sort of pressure for me to do well in the upcoming years because of how young I am and how much people say I should progress. It's some sort of pressure I think of, but I'm not really too much now. It'll probably be more around the F1 2020 around the.
Yeah, I agree. But I think this game with him, I think he's felt a bit more pressure than he has the past couple of years because, as you know, some of his results have been absolutely terrible this season. He seems to have a good race and then 4 or 5 bad races and then one good race again. But we're working on it, aren't we? We're getting there.
I mean, yeah, I've noticed, you had a fantastic race in Austria and AOR, and then the next evening in World Honor Racing, you had a bit of a mare and didn't make it through. And then it is a difficult one because you don't want to I mean, Neil, you don't want to put so much pressure on such a young person. I mean, because that could affect them going forward. I'm sure you understand that as a father, that you don't want to put too much pressure on him because, you don't want him to crumble.
That's it. I mean, it's just finding the balance, isn't it? How much do you actually push him? But I mean, like you say on Sunday night in AOR, that was one of the best drives I've seen him do for a long time. And then, like you said, Monday night, he was pretty confident coming into the race off of AOR, thinking I can do all right. And it was like watching somebody completely different drive the car. It was weird. I just couldn't, but it frustrates the life out of me because I know how quick he can be. But I just don't know whether that's with his age. As he matures, he'll get a bit better or handle it a bit better. I don't know.
I mean, I can imagine it's you've started secondary school as well, Billy. I mean, you've got other things on your mind as well, going forward. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind, just watching you and commentating over you the last sort of year and a half, that you're destined for good things. Fingers crossed that is. But going forward, I mean, I know it's a long way away, and you're only just you're only 12 years old now. But do you want to do esports as a future job? Is that where you want to be, or do you want to maybe do something in a completely different industry?
Nah, F1.
F1.
Yeah. Easier route, don't need GCSEs, you just need to.
That's not the right mentality. Oh dear. Don't need GCSE, brilliant. But I'm sure your dad doesn't agree with that at all.
No, I don't at all. No.
Oh, that was a great answer. But so you're 100% committed to being an esports driver in F1, or maybe iRacing, something going forward then.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's what I can do now. It's something that I'm doing now, and something I can get faster at.
Right, you've got to. Do you enjoy it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, there you
I
go.
wouldn't have done it the past 2 years.
But it's half the battle.
I mean, yeah, he's just striking that balance. You mentioned, and you've got to continue enjoying. There's no point doing it if you don't enjoy it. I mean, with, I mean, Neil, have you ever been tempted to? I mean, the problem is with karting, it's such an expensive thing to do. I mean, is that why you've invested in Bailey, regarding sort of investing in a good wheel and a good setup rather than karting, because it's just way too expensive these days?
Yeah, exactly right. We looked into karting when he was 8, 9, and I think you're looking at around four grand just to get set up, and then
Wow.
you've got every race, mate. It's unreal, and the competition's so high all the time. It's that competitive. You've got to have a deep pockets basically, which I ain't got. I've got 4 kids, and they all like to share.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it must be difficult to try and get the balance. I mean, you focus. You can only focus on one child so much. I mean, with 4 children, it must be difficult to give them sort of equal things all the time.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to find the balance. It is.
I can imagine. And I mean, with your dynamic, it's quite a strange one, because I don't see many sort of father son duos, well, in esports alone. We see brother groups with, we see both the Sontag brothers. There are a couple of other guys as well, but it's a strange dynamic you both have. I mean, you run Bailey Twitter, of course. Neil, explain, for those who don't know, explain why you do that.
Because Twitter is just so toxic, and it's, everything gets blown out of proportion on Twitter.
Hmm.
I say more as of a laugh than anything else, because I'll just like sort of sit back and watch the arguments unfold. But the reason Bailey's not on Twitter is he got diagnosed with Asperger's a few years ago,
Hmm.
and he finds it hard to decipher social, the way you react, like your facial expressions, the way people word stuff. He takes everything literally
Hmm.
to a certain extent. So I just don't think it'd be wise for him to actually be on there, because I think it would end in tears big time.
Yeah, Twitter can be quite a nasty place at times. I mean, when you've got one driver thinking one thing, another driver thinking another thing, it really can go quite toxic. And you see it a lot after, a Sunday evening after a race in AOR. It can get quite bad. And do you think that's a case of people thinking, well, they're only a Twitter user, they haven't got their face on it? Do you think they have more of a right to give their opinion and maybe have a go or use some nasty words? Do you think because it's Twitter they can do that? I mean, would they not do it face to face?
Definitely not face to face, because with Twitter there's no consequences. A
Mm.
few DMs or a block, that's as far as it's going to go, really, isn't it? But back in my day, when there was no mobile phones, no Twitter, anything, you wanted to say something, you went and knocked on somebody's door and you said it face to face.
Mm.
That's how it was. Then there
Yeah.
was consequences if you didn't say the right thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, Billy, do you ever find it quite frustrating that you haven't got control of it? I mean, I understand where your dad's coming from, but from your point of view, do you sometimes wish you could control it as well?
Yeah. It'd be a lot easier to see what like everyone's talking about in chats and stuff. It's like and information about the leagues.
Mm.
If there's someone attending a league, you could
I
see
do, I
it.
do tell you that. I keep you updated.
Yeah,
That's
but
fine.
yeah, but only until you get into work.
I don't know that. Well, you've got Instagram and Snapchat and that, haven't you?
Yeah, but
Come on. Take a little bit, Can't have it all.
Brilliant. I agree. Mid podcast. Brilliant. Um, um, but yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from, Neil. I can imagine. I mean, I'm sitting in the middle here trying to please you both with my answer. But
It's
I mean,
cool.
yeah, I mean, like you said, Twitter can be, and like we both said, and we've both seen that Twitter is a very nasty place. I mean, do you have any idea of how to improve it in any way, or do you think it's always going to be like this?
I think it'll always be like that, because there's no way of actually controlling it, really, is there? Or placing it, should we say? I don't know. And
Hmm.
plus, you're just on a keyboard and you can say anything you want, and nobody's going to come and knock at your door or anything, are they? So I
Oh.
don't know. I just don't know actually how you would actually do it.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem with these sites, with Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. You can say you're 18 and then you can access the whole site. It's not, they're not going to facial scan you or take a blood sample to check what your date of
Yeah,
birth or anything. It's anyone can get on. And I think that is a problem sometimes, and especially like you said, if with Bailey's condition. I mean, if you can't read facial expressions properly and emotions, and that could of course that could really affect Bailey going forward in the future. I mean, you don't want that from a father's point of view at all, and well,
no,
no one wants that at all. But and like you said, there are kids out there who will be really really nasty, and they, like you said, they don't care. They don't think of the consequences.
no, you're exactly right, Joe. Exactly right.
Yeah, it is quite sad, and I do hope it improves, and I hope these episodes do help people out. But yeah, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It really depends if people watch them and if people really take on board what we're trying to get across in these episodes. So I do hope it does improve, and I mean, I'd hope then people, like Billy, can get on and they don't have to worry at all. But unfortunately, that is the way Twitter is at the moment. But I mean, Bailey, of course, you started secondary school. How is that going? You've been 3 or 4 months now. How are you finding it?
I mean, it's alright. It's a lot more homework, so
Yeah.
that's all good. I need to practice for these weekends.
I'm sure you can find time. You're in your first year of secondary school, but favorite subject?
Don't really have one. It
No,
was maths in primary school, but secondary, they're all the same, man.
all the same. Okay, okay. And when you're in school, do you have like a group of mates who follow F1, or or you on your own in the F1 world, and everyone, because you guys are from the northeast, so football must be massive up with you guys.
There's no one. No one follows
No one.
F1.
Oh
No
dear.
one in your in my no one.
Oh dear.
And
Oh.
everyone follows football. Everyone's like, "Oh, have you seen what Newcastle did in the weekend?" I'm just like, "No." Hamilton win the world championship in Mexico. Who's he? It's
Oh
just like,
dear.
please.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you can talk to your dad about it, but I mean, it's not the same when you're talking to your dad and talking to your mates, I guess. With starting secondary school, Bailey, you mentioned you get let on to practice now. We mentioned how you've had a bit of a blip at the start of this season. Do you find maybe that's why you're not doing so well as you used to do, because you've got less time on your hands in secondary school?
No, not
No?
really. I don't really think that was an issue because in 2017 I was kind of doing nears about the same amount of practice for like my leagues. So
Mhm. Okay.
I don't think I've just got like I was hooked up with this game like settled into it as I have on like previous ones.
Okay. I'm sure you've got plenty of time. I mean, you've got if this season doesn't go to plan, you've got a whole another season to practice for Formula One, and I'm sure you've got plenty of time on your hands by the time, or it's 6 years until you can qualify for the F1 Esports draft. So I'm sure you'll have plenty of time to look forward to that. I mean, Neil, what's your thoughts on the F1 esports now? I mean, it's grown so much over the last sort of 3-4 years. I mean, there's such a large amount of money involved now. I mean, do you feel that people will purely pursue these careers? Now, you mentioned Bailey wants to do it. Do you think that will be a good career path to go forward into?
I think it would be great if you could get into it, but I also think you should have some sort of backup plan because you cannot just rely on that, can you? I mean,
Mm.
it's the way it's grown from last year to this year was unreal. The prize money, the way the actual F1 teams got involved, which I thought was great. But how much further can they take it now with the F1 teams being involved?
Yeah,
So,
Ferrari.
do you get? I mean, if you win esports, do you eventually get on to be a test driver for an F1 team or F2 or F3?
Hmm. Yeah, but it's an interesting one.
I just can't really say how much further it can go over it, but I mean, it'd be great if Bailey could get into it. It'd be great for any of the people Bailey actually races to get into it. It's good to see, but just I couldn't see it as being your lifelong ambition. Like to get it, like to make a career out of it. It has to have a following somewhere, doesn't it? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I mean, you can only do something for so many years. It's like, I mean, you see a lot of. I know it's a different game, but a lot of the guys who play League of Legends, you see the top guys. They're not there for very long. Um, they're only there for, you know, 5 years at the maximum before they then leave because the reaction speeds aren't quick enough, or maybe they have problems with their eyes because they had to stare at screens all the time. I mean, it's one of those. It's one of the things with. I guess people don't really understand what the full consequences of sort of staring at screens almost 24 hours can cause people. I mean, it would be the same thing in Formula One games. I mean, I guess you could say people would progress to iRacing because, again, there's lots of money in that as well going forward. But it's interesting to see where it will go forward in the future now, and hopefully it goes for the better. I mean, I personally think it could be a case of going to each race has an esports race. So you go turn up in Australia, you have an Australian esports, and then there's Bahrain and China. I think that might be the way forward.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's in like you would have with Formula 2 follows F1, but esports follows this F1 as well. I think that would be quite a cool concept, but it's money that's really drawing round really with going forward. But we'll have to wait and see um, what what comes out of it. Really, I mean, Neil? Do you ever have to with Bailey? I mean, I mean, you see a lot these days with kids getting addiction to games. I mean, it's really come to the forefront because of the Fortnite revolution, and all the kids are playing Fortnite. Do you ever have to limit Bailey with how much hours he plays on his Xbox?
Yes. Sometimes it gets a bit out of hand, especially like you say with Fortnite. He actually deleted Fortnite off 3 weeks ago, and the improvement on F1 was unreal.
Oh, really?
So yes, it's
Interesting.
but he was like doing an hour's practice on F1 and playing 4 hours, 5 hours Fortnite, and wondering why he wasn't very well on F1. Deleted it, playing 3 or 4 hours on F1 a day, and the results start coming in. So proof's in the pudding, really, isn't it? I mean, I keep telling them, if you want to sort of get good, you've got to put the time and effort in. These people don't just jump on and be automatically quick straight away, do they? So
No. Yeah, exactly. I mean, from your point of view, Bailey, you mentioned your dad's deleting Fortnite. I mean, do you think you just spent way too much time on it, and now you can concentrate back on Formula One?
Yeah, I mean, I downloaded it again, but I don't play it nearly as much.
Okay. You play more F1 now.
Yeah, not like the whole reason I had Fortnite and was playing Fortnite so much is because of my friends. My
Mhm.
friends like played it constantly, and I would feel like left out because of like they would all play, talk about it the next day, and then talk about the day after, and I had nothing to talk with them about, so
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
just playing it with them.
this is one of the problems with the Asperger's. He cannot understand that he can just be himself. He doesn't have to sort of like jump on the same bus, be a sheep and follow the crowd. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, do when you're in school, Bailey, did the other kids sort of realize how good you are at F1, or do they just sort of do you not talk about it that much with them? I mean, you mentioned that everyone's playing Fortnite, so they sometimes they don't really care about how sort of your achievements so far in the world of F1.
I don't talk about it.
No?
I save myself from that. Really,
Okay. Do they?
myself from. I'm saving it. I'm saving myself from what's that game and how I can you be quick on a racing game?
Oh dear. That's not very nice at all, is it? Oh dear. No. But I mean, they're missing out on a talent, really. I'm sure when you're on TV, when you've won a world championship, and think, oh, I remember that guy. He didn't talk about anything. He only talked about Fortnite. But I'm sure they'll miss you when you finally get that title. Um, but I mean, this evening you've got the AOR race as well in Silverstone. How much? I mean, we practiced together earlier, and you were about a second quicker than I am because well, I'm not very good. But are you looking forward to tonight? Are you expecting? I mean, after a good result in Austria, surely you must be expecting a good result around Silverstone, your home Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, I've done fast today and I'm 1-2 left, so I just got faster. I think I did like a low 26. I'm not gonna tell the exact time.
Okay. Just too quick for me.
And the race pace seemed good. The tires were fine. So hopefully, I'm not hoping for podium like I did last week. I mean, if I can, great.
Mhm.
But I'm just hoping for some points, really.
Good. Well, hopefully you can continue. I mean, you did well last week, and you're in the top 10 of the championship. I mean, the only way is up at the moment for yourself. I mean, Neil, are you ever tempted to race at all, or does Bailey hog the console so you don't even get a chance?
I can't. I'm totally honest. I'm absolutely crap at Formula One. Crap. I kind of get I expect too much from the car. But I like project cars in a set of Corsa, so
Okay.
sometimes if there's a opening spot with a few of the lads off here, well, I'll jump in there and do a couple of races with them. But I don't really have the time. I've got to work. Yeah, for it all, haven't I?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're the man of the house, and I'm sure you haven't got time to get any of this done.
I'm the man in the house. I don't know whether I'm actually the man of the house.
Brilliant.
For women, you don't really have much choice.
Fantastic. So I mean, Bailey, you ever tempted to play Project Cars? I mean, it is a more realistic game, and there is another, which is quite a big esports team behind, Project Cars and iRacing, which is the next step, I guess. Do you ever tempted by those, or are you just sticking to what you know at the moment?
I've played Project Cars a few times, and I jump on, turn the force feedback down, and I get into a GT3 car or something, and I just shut the car in up and it'll turn and it just spins. So,
Oh, oh dear. A
Yeah,
lot
I
more.
think he thinks he's driving an F1 car. That's why.
Ah, yeah, they are a bit easy to handle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So going forward for you both, I mean, what does the future hold for VRT Verstappen going forward?
a name change to Veloci or something.
Hey.
Championship.
Brilliant.
I don't know, really. Just
Realistically,
keep plugging away at it, didn't it? That's it. Just keep going and see where it takes us.
Well, I think everyone watching and myself all hope for the best for you both going forward. But I always like to ask two questions before we finish any interview, and those are. I mean, it might be a bit difficult for you, Billy, because you're only 12 years old, so I don't really think you can give yourself some advice when you were 2 years old. But I mean, Neil, if you could, maybe you could cover you both here. If you could go back 5, 10 years, I mean, what sort of some advice would you give yourselves if you were to look back on it?
God, goes on the spot. I don't really know, to be quite honest. Just
Caught you.
keep doing. You have completely there. If you enjoy something, just keep doing it. Don't stop. Just keep going. That's basically it, really. Just follow your dream.
Follow your dream.
Yeah. If I go back maybe 20 year, 25 year, I'd probably do things a hell of a lot different. A lot different. But you made your bed, you lie on it, and that's the way it goes, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, you make the most of what you've got. Sometimes you don't you don't get to where you want to, but you can always you can always achieve higher and go forward and make the most of what you've got, of course. And the final question is for you both. What would you like to be remembered for?
God.
So I've hit you with two smackers here, haven't I?
What would I like to be remembered for? Oh my God. I'd just been, I don't know, just been a supportive father and just, I don't know, just a nice guy generally.
Standing on top of the esports championship.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, I can't see the answer right now, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's the only thing I can really visualize myself in the future.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, you just keep on striving. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing the day to see you on top spot of an F1 podium with your dad on the side watching away. Hope that one day, and I'll be in the commentary box as well. So we'll be like a team because I'll just support Bailey the whole time. I mean, that's not the way commentators should do it, but that's a dream we can all have. So I think that rounds it up for today's episode, guys. Thank you ever so much for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you've got any questions for Neil and Bailey, I'm sure they can answer it on Twitter or on the YouTube comments if you do want to ask them anything specific. Thank you both for joining me. I wish you all the luck going forward, Bailey. I'm sure we will see you on that top spot of that esports podium very soon. And yeah, thanks guys for listening. Follow these guys on Twitter, it is down below, and follow myself. My social media is down in the description, and we'll see you very soon for another episode with a saucy customer for our next episode. Thank you guys for listening, and good night.